Hello, keyboard lads. This is the first of a series of interviews that I will be having with makers, vendors, people that I find interesting in this hobby, and try and figure out what got them into this hobby, how their growth in the hobby happened, uh, what pushed them to become a vendor or a maker, and in some scenarios, what caused them to stop doing that. It's going to be a long video. The first video is with Hiney of Hiney. And if you like the video, do give me a like so I can make more videos like this. And if you're not subscribed, it's okay. I forgive you. Hiney, you are a well known keyboard and PCB maker. I presume you know that. And you've been
Yeah,
around for quite a while. I think we've been around for like ballpark the same amount of time, right?
yeah. I want to say I got into keyboards like initially in like 2015 or 2016, but then I'd gotten like the custom stuff. Like I remember like when the Mech Keys Discord was like actually good and like the
Yeah,
only Discord
customs chat.
that there was. Yeah, that was like 20.
2017, 2016, something like that.
Yeah, I know you can like find your server date, but I can't remember when it
Oh,
was.
it's fine, man.
You joined it, but yeah, it was way back then.
So you are well known for being a PCB designer. In my opinion, one of the best PCB designers.
Thank you.
For those of you wondering why I'm wearing a Heine shirt, I bought this with
Oh,
my
that's
own
right.
money.
I just noticed that.
Yeah, I paid full price for this, so don't worry.
Back when I tried merch.
There's no conflict of interest here, except for the fact that Josh has been a friend for many years, and we do
Mhm.
have similar opinions on a lot of things. But uh, let me know. All right, so we'll start super basic. Give me the rundown of like how you discovered keyboards, and then how you like got into the rabbit hole of actual custom keyboards.
Yeah. I guess in the very beginning, I was in college, had like, my random HP laptop, whatever that was. I was playing like Daisy and like random games, and Daisy, even today, I think still runs like absolute shit.
Yep.
So I was like, all right, I want to build a computer. Started doing that the one summer. I think, yeah, that was like 2015. And then I got like, whatever, build a PC recommended. I think it was like a Logitech G7 10 Plus with like the browns and like all the macros and shit
Oh,
on the side.
really? You went
Yeah.
Logitech for your first like
hmm
modern
Well,
mechanical?
I didn't know anything about keyboards at that time. I was just like, all right, I want a numpad and I want, I figured that looked cool, like, or, it was cool enough, whatever. It's a real brand. Like even back then, they
Oh
only
yeah.
had a couple, but I didn't want to get like the Corsair or anything like that because I didn't like the RGB. But yeah, I started there and then I found r/mechanical keyboards naturally, got into like the Discord servers and just started like being around it more. And then, yeah, I just got into the communities and it kind of went from there where I started to realize like, oh, like there's other options that aren't just
All right.
marketed to people like at Best Buy
So
or, they're gamers.
so what was the first real like
Um,
board? I mean, for reference, mine was like a Leopold FC 700. So like
yeah,
it's still an
mine
OEM.
was, it was, I think, a WASD code TKL
Oh,
with clears.
oh wow. You went with
Yeah, actually,
WASD.
I was down at my shop a couple weeks ago and I found it. I still have it, but it has, for some reason, custom, like I rebuilt Zelios. Like I bought stems and then I bought housings and I bought springs like separately. I don't know why I did that. And then I built them myself and like desoldered, resoldered. Like, yeah, I remember sitting in my like my apartment at the time and I had like the little like $4 Amazon like solder sucker that like would like cut your thumbs
Oh,
and stuff because it was really
the
shitty.
blue and silver one?
Yeah,
Yep.
I had one of those, and yeah, I got into like the whole customization. I've always been someone that like I need to customize everything. It's probably some kind of developmental issue I have, but yeah, yeah, I just kind of started to get into it from there. Yeah, and I had a code definitely, and then I don't know if you remember him. What the hell was his name? He pops in and out every once in a while. I'll probably think of it at some point. Rooster Cogburn.
That
I
is
think it was him.
that is a throwback.
I think it was him, but he was selling a clue board or no, whatever the stock board was that fit into a clue board, like a 6 Not a 660. It was like the Varmillo
Yeah, the Varmello variant. That was like a
68,
68,
or no,
right?
Magic Force. Magic
Oh,
Force.
you're talking about the Tragic Force?
Yeah, so he had a broken Magic Force, or maybe it was the Varmillo, one way or the other. It's like that layout with like the four little nav keys.
Yeah.
And I remember it was broken. He sold that, a clue board, like aluminum case, and like a couple other things for like pretty cheap in the sense of like, hey, this is broken, I don't want it. So I bought it off of him, and I bought a clue board PCB from like back when the OLKB and what's his face, Scully days and stuff, like still at his own store. Bought all those, built it myself, ended up reselling it.
This is what, like
And
2016, 2017?
I think like 2017, yeah, like that summer. And I had pictures with GMK Plum on it. That was my first key set group buy, GMK Plum.
Really?
One of the
That's
very
rather
ill-fated.
late. That's rather late. I thought you'd be on with like, the early boys.
I had Plum and Coniferous from Donut Cat.
I remember
I
Coniferous.
think those were the two. Like that was back when what you could only run like one GMK set a month because otherwise like there was no way they would ever hit MOQ.
I mean, it's not even that. Like ICs wouldn't even have the interest required. Like
So
things really
yeah, they
struggled.
sell like 30 kits or like 30 base kits, and you needed like 150, 250, whatever.
Yeah.
And like it didn't happen. But yeah, that was all like kind of like my first real custom stuff, and then I just got more and more into it. I don't even remember. I had a 980M Leopold, and then
Nice.
that's when I found that layout, and then I designed the HPCP in like 20. That was actually still 2017 because that was when I moved. I've graduated and got my first job and moved and stuff, and got stuck doing all that stuff. But yeah, so that's kind of where that all started.
Okay. What was your first like actual custom, like big boy custom?
Like that I bought or designed.
Bought. Let's start with, well, I mean,
Oh
which one
yeah.
did you do first? I hope you didn't design before buying.
I did an HBCP pretty early on. That was
Oh no,
I don't even think I had
that
like
wasn't
a
even
true
early
like
on. Mech Mini 2.
aluminum custom or
Mech
anything
Mini
yet.
2 is the OG.
Yeah, I had it was when the Albach came out. I was like, oh, that's so sick, but I didn't want to spend like whatever it was for it. So I did the HPCP instead because I just was like wanting to learn CAD and PCB design and stuff.
The Albach was like, it was like it was like 420, 430, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah,
Which
or like
by
I missed the group buy or something like that. Like I just didn't get it for some reason.
by
But
today's
I ended,
metrics, that's like super cheap. But like back
oh
then,
yeah,
430 for a custom board, you're just like, get the hell out of here, you
yeah,
know?
because like you don't know if it'll ever show up. Like there were no, it was all dudes just running stuff off of like Geekhack.
Yeah.
It wasn't like no one had storefronts. Everything was PayPal invoices. Like
Yep.
yeah, that was the days. But I think my first real custom board was. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. I'd have to like look back at my like photos or something. I remember early on I had a Jane V2 really early on
I mean, it couldn't have
that I
been that early.
loved
It couldn't have been that early.
because I was still in Ohio at that point. So I think I got that in 2018.
Is the V2 really 2018?
Yeah.
Wow, I feel old. Like
Seriously.
yeah, like for me, like I had like what, like eight,
Yeah.
9 boards before that. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll go for a V2 back when like you could actually like get a limited TGR release.
Yep. Yeah, that was like one of the first boards I definitely remember like getting in, unboxing, taking pictures of it. I think I actually have a picture of it, like on like my real Instagram of like not like my keyboard stuff.
Yeah. You had a silver one, didn't you? Or it was some like super rare color?
No, it was purple.
Yeah, that is
It was
rare.
like I want to say because they had the pink ones that were more common, and the purple. I ended up selling it to dude named I think it was like Witty or something.
Okay.
A couple years ago, like 2020 ish. I think I sold it.
I mean, that was the time to absolutely sell a V2.
Yeah, that was when I was looking to propose to my now wife, and I was like, hey, I have these keyboards that I don't really use. I do love them, but like this is a good cause to sell them for. So I sold TGR boards and got a bought engagement ring.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely the play.
The meme was actually maybe one of my first customs too.
Are you talking about the board that like didn't fit together because the tolerances were 0?
Yeah, well, it wasn't that. It was the design was fine, but the factory that Krelbit and I used was like god awful. It was terrible. Like, did you get in on that buy? I can't remember.
I did
Because
not,
it
but
was
I
a
was
lot
like,
of like that same circle of people like
yeah,
that we were all kind of friends with back then.
yeah. I think like I was offered one on multiple occasions, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
maybe
So
let's not.
now that I'm looking at, I'll send you the link to the pictures. But now that I'm looking at it, I think I designed that before HVCP. But so Meme was probably actually like my first like aluminum keyboard, and that was a struggle and a challenge because I literally had to Dremel every single board to like make the corners fit right,
Yeah.
and it was so bad. It
Wait,
was so bad.
was the meme before the Mac Mini 2?
Oh, that's right. The
Yeah.
fucking Mech Mini.
Wait. Hold on. Let me show
No.
you something.
So yeah, dude, I
You
forgot
recognize
about that.
this?
No, because I've only ever seen it in person once. But yeah. Oh no, yeah, dude, that board was so cool. Like I was really happy with how that turned out.
This was
But
my first tiny board.
obviously the downside was there was a bunch of stupid shit that happened with that guy Dave that ran
Yeah. J-Chan.
Mech ECA, and I ended up like never getting a board.
Oh wait, no,
Which
it wasn't J-Chan. It was the other one. It was
Dave something.
yeah, Dave from MechKeys.ca, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he would always like, yeah, he was, I don't know what his deal was, but yeah, I ended up never getting the board. You know, I was like, whatever, it's no big deal. But I will see one every so often at like a meetup or something, and it's really cool just to see it.
It's a nice little board, dude.
Yeah, and it worked. It's simple, you know, it was easy. It was fun to do. But yeah, so it was that one, then the meme, and I think HPCP was right around the same time. Yeah, those were kind of, I guess, my first foray into it. So I guess, yeah, the first customs I had, I designed myself. And then the Jane V2. Yep, that was in this picture I put up, 2019.
Yeah, okay, so
March of 2019.
okay, so that's relatively late. That's like, 3-4 years after you were like properly in the hobby, or at least interested in the hobby.
Yep.
I'm curious, what got you into like PCBs? Like, do you have like a like an electrical engineering background, or just out of nowhere?
Yeah, so I have my degree in electrical engineering. At the time, I was like in school for it, and I was always into more like the hands-on, like testing. Like I do test engineering now, but like I'm always been really into the yeah, like the hands-on, the hardware kind of stuff. And where I went to school, we didn't really have many like classes where like I could learn PCB design, for example. So I just kind of set on figuring it out and learning it myself just because I thought it was cool. And keyboard PCBs ended up being like a perfect little segue into that because they're really simple.
Yeah.
But like it's a good way to learn like the basic hardware stuff. Like there's really good guides out there. I mean, now there are, but back then it was like,
I mean, back then you just
basically
opened KiCad and sent it.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And like that's when I really started to look into things like all the manufacturers, like the main controller that I still use for the most part is like the Atmega 32U4,
which is the correct controller, yes.
Oh yeah, but Atmel, who makes those, or now it's Microchip, but regardless, they had a bunch of like really good like layout guides, data sheets, and stuff, and I was like, this is a great help. Like this is where that's pretty much where I learned all of my initial stuff, and even things like no one did like ESD protection. It was literally like USB port, 2 resistors, and then the controller.
And then good luck.
And like that's when like you know how the PCBs used to be, like they would just die. Like anything would kill them. Like they were so unreliable, they were, not very well fabricated, I guess.
And back then
I was just like
back then it was like PS2 AV. You'd have to use Bootmapper client. This is like
yep.
Way back when.
Yeah, like super early. Because my stuff even back then was like QMK based. Oh yeah, that reminds me. Like remember like the whole like cartel era?
Yeah.
Which never happened because I haven't talked to either of those dudes. I don't know where the main guy End went. He just kind of fell off the face of the earth. And the other dude K1 was interesting, but yeah, we End had a bunch of really cool concepts, and nothing really ever happened with it. Sadly, I think we literally did like the dank. Or not the dank, the Contra. Sorry, I can't.
Yeah, the Contra 40. I remember that.
Because AI was in that Discord server, AIO3, and you were in there too for a while. I remember. And,
oh yeah.
He just like made it as a meme, and like it turned into what it was, which was really funny. And they sold like a shit ton of them. But yeah, I mean that's like when AI and I really started to look into like, oh, like ESD protection is a thing and like all that other kind of stuff. But yeah, I just kind of started finding holes that needed to be filled PCB wise and I tried to like make them, I guess, and make them work. And it was a lot of just like trial and error and just learning on my part. And
Yeah.
it turned into people actually liking that stuff and realizing like, oh, like this is useful. I think the first big PCB that like I don't know the right way to put it, like not made me known or like put me on the map, like I guess kind of like
H87.
that. Yeah, H87, yeah, but it was invisibility. On like the Mech Keys thing, he just pinged me one day. I was like, hey, you should make a TKL PCB that works on all these old boards with shitty PCBs. I was like,
Yep.
okay. And that's where that started. And then
Oh, it was just literally just a random DM.
yeah, he pinged me in like a public server. I was like, hey, you should do this. And I was like, that's not
Okay.
a bad idea. Yeah, so I started looking into like all the different formats and like the USB positioning.
Shit,
And
I
it
remember
was
this when you like put out when you put out like explainer documentation of like here's
yep.
what will fit what and what should I
hmm
do? What's the A,
I still
what's
have
the
a
B?
Google spreadsheet that's like very old now. I haven't updated it in forever, but it basically goes through like all the old boards and what version would fit which board basically, or if it'll fit or not. And then yeah, it kind of went from there. And then I started making a bunch of other ones, and it sort of became like the de facto like form factor standard
Yeah.
for pretty much every TKL since, for the most part, I would say.
Yeah.
Which is, and like now even there's like McLovin, there's like Canon Keys with AI, like they're making the PCBs. Like there's a lot of other companies and people, I guess, that are producing the PCBs based off of that form factor. I can't say I came up with the form factor because it's like a hybrid of the remember like winkeylist.kr.
Yep.
You could buy PCBs from them, like the B face and like all those.
Yeah. But they were terrible. They'd fall apart. You'd end up with like
Yeah,
loose
exactly.
diodes. I
They
mean,
were like the only ones you could get.
yeah. Yeah. Actually, that actually is a perfect segue to the next question, which is not on the list, which
Oh,
is I literally have a drawer just full of Hiney PCBs. Because they never die. They never
yep.
die. I've dealt with so many PCBs from so many makers, vendors, manufacturers, and n- nothing has been as perfect as Hiney PCBs for me.
Oh,
Now,
you're talking me up now.
oh no, no, I actually have like a legit question. Like,
Yeah.
how the hell do you do it? Because like the abuse, like I've thrown Hiney PCBs across the
Oh,
room and they're fine.
I see what you do to your keyboards.
Yeah. So
Oh yeah.
like I'm curious, like, and to be fair, this is from like the very beginning of your like H87 series. Like they were dependable, strong
Mhm.
PCBs at a time where, usually you'd pick up a PCB from China for like 20-25 bucks plus shipping,
Mhm.
white solder mask. Maybe it works, maybe you can desolder it once or twice, but like how did you manage to actually make something robust? To be fair,
Part of it was
sorry,
yeah, good.
just as a qualifier, your PCBs were more expensive than the competition.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
were like 40 bucks when everybody else was doing 20-25.
Yeah.
But yours would still be solid. I'm curious, like how do you do that? Is that a design thing? Is that a manufacturer thing? Is it a QC thing?
Kind of all the above, I would say. Like the hardware design definitely matters a bit, where it's like you want, like a solid ground plane because it helps dissipate the heat during the manufacturing process. Like you've probably seen boards that like it's only the traces.
Yeah.
There's no other, and like they're like kind of, transparent, which they look cool. But in the manufacturing process, that doesn't necessarily translate well because when they go through the wave soldering machines, it can cause like just issues within like the FR4 and the substrates and stuff and like the adhesives where when you have like I had a series of PCBs that I only did the ground plane on one side and they warped. They were like bent because the the ground plane kind of sucked it in.
Okay, so it's
And
kind of like the heat treating aspect of like PBT die subbing, where like putting heat on one side will cause it to curve, kind of thing.
yeah,
Or
exactly. Yep.
manufacture or like CNCing polycarbonate, same idea.
Yep.
Like the heat will cause it to
Exactly.
warp.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like I mean like that kind of stuff, like there's considerations, and that kind of goes back to the same thing I was saying earlier with like the documentation you can get from like manufacturers of the components, and also like just PCB guidelines, like beyond keyboard stuff. Like there's a lot of stuff that's like, this is how to make things, yeah, more robust. And I for like the first 3 or 4 years of me doing PCBs, I only ever used Electro.
Yeah,
The rep I
solid.
worked with, he was there that whole time. He ended up leaving the company, so I switched over to 2 other different ones, and now I only use one of them. But yeah, their processes were great. I mean, I never really had issues with them. In those early days, like I would do a group buy or something, and I would get all the PCBs in. Nothing was flashed. I would flash every single one myself. I would wrap. I had a huge roll of like pink static bag stuff. I had a bag press. I was doing all that stuff myself, and I mean, it was super time consuming. But like whenever I would flash the PCBs, say one didn't work, I obviously wouldn't ship that one out. I have piles of, not piles, but like I have stacks, I guess, of PCBs that like they just never flash from the factory. So obviously I'm not going to ship that out to someone, like, you know, because you can get a PCB from anywhere really, and yeah, it can be DOA, but yeah, a little bit better QC. And I do that now, even where I have the factory flash and pack them. They even do that now, where
Oh, that's
say
nice.
like an RGB LED is dead, or yeah, something weird happens. They won't use that PCB, or they'll fix it and then they'll send it out.
That's nice.
Yeah, so it's like another little verification thing.
I
But
mean, you remember this guy.
oh my god,
You're
I try not to.
I mean, you have one of
I
those,
have
right?
mine somewhere. It's
Yeah.
over on one of these shelves over here.
So like these went through Electro with your help. I remember you like walked me through the process because I had no fucking idea what I was doing.
Hmm.
But I remember manually flashing like 160 PCBs.
Yep.
Just plug it in. You've got Flip, the Atmel utility,
Yep.
where you press 3 keys, send it, plug in the next one, put it in a bag. So like I've gone through the process.
It was so time consuming. And even stuff like when I started doing like the actual like silver ESD bags, I would get them from Uline for like, I don't know, they were like 50 or 60 cents a piece. And then I went to the factory and I was like, hey, can you guys flash these and put them in the bags for me?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, it's like 8 cents.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
why did I not do this
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
start?
That checks out.
But it was all that, you know, like learning and figuring that out. And like I was what, 20, I was like my younger 20s, and like I didn't know anything about that kind of stuff. I didn't do any kind of fabrication work with my real job. I didn't have to deal with any kind of suppliers like that. So like I pretty much had to just like figure it out. But yeah, like the third part with the PCBs actually being like robust was I started to look into like the different plating options and things. So a lot of my PCBs you'll see have like the gold plating.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually like immersion gold. Like it's a super thin layer, but it helps with conduction, and
It helps with soldering and desoldering. So you're talking about
yes.
Inig versus Hassel, right?
Yeah. Hassel is like pretty much the cheapest option. I mean, it works for the most part, don't get me wrong, but it's easier to heat that up too much, like with a desoldering gun or even with a soldering iron.
Yeah.
And yeah, just lift the pad, destroy it. But yeah, I really got into like the processes and the fabrication, and like the reps I worked with, obviously they helped me a good bit too, because I had questions and whatnot. But
Yeah.
I kind of just figured it out. But yeah, I'm happy to hear that like some PCBs are still working. I mean, I still have ones that are
Oh no, mine are
years old prototypes.
Mine are
and stuff
bulletproof. Mine are absolutely
Yeah.
bulletproof. I mean, the amount of like solder desolder cycles that I've put on some of my PCBs is literally insane, and totally fine. You know,
Yeah, I really haven't had issues myself either.
like I've tried other PCBs, end up completely demolishing pads, even though they're like, you know, they've got the gold finishing and everything on them, but like you know, the pads are small, or the pads are not like adequately like tied into the ground plane, I guess.
Yeah.
It's it is what it is.
Yeah, and a lot of the other stuff was like AI went a lot further with like his KiCad libraries that he's had available for years, that he's gone through like numerous iterations with. But him and I worked a lot on like making sure that, yeah, like the pads were the right sizes. Like you'll get some PCBs where it's like super tiny,
Yeah.
relative to like the hole for the pin. there's nowhere for the heat to go. So yeah,
Yeah.
it destroys it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started doing like the larger pins, the ones that are like, I know some people don't like them, but like the MX Alps hybrid ones.
Yeah, they're fine. They're
Yeah,
fine,
they
honestly.
have a lot more surface area. It takes a little longer to solder them because of that, but at the same time, it's a little more protection. Versus yeah, like just not having anything.
Here's my question. Like, this started as a, I don't know, this started as like a very like grassroots thing where you're just like, I want to make the boards that I want to have. I want to make the PCBs that I want to
Yep.
have. But like, what pushed it to the point where you're like, hey, let me offer this to other people for money? What?
Honestly, like the money aspect of it. It was nice to have, extra funds, things like that.
I mean, you
And plus,
started up,
I
sorry, you started up in like what, like 2019, late 2019 is when you started like properly like selling
I want to
PCBs.
say 2018, 2019, yeah, somewhere around there. I can't remember exactly.
All right.
Oh no, it was definitely 2018. I think it was my first H87 group buy.
Okay.
That was in my first apartment out in Ohio where we lived for like we were only out there for 2 years maybe. But that was it, 2018. But yeah, it was like I guess people, there's a market here, like this is a thing. And then yeah, I became very good friends with a lot of people, a lot of the other makers, people that were like, hey, I want to design this case. I don't have a PCB. There's not one available. Like, would you be interested in designing one? So that was when I was like really, really into it. I really didn't have much else going on life wise, work wise and stuff. So I was like, yeah, sure. So I had a bunch of free time and I was like, why not use this free time to like better my craft of design and stuff and also like help friends out essentially.
Okay.
And yeah, the money was nice too. Of course, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I was just more into it to try to help people out. And like you said, like I always wanted to like make stuff that I wanted. Or if someone else was making something, we'd like trade boards or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's pretty much where that all came from.
All right. I mean, like I remember like 2018, 2019, probably 2019, like when I asked you for help with like the ISO,
Yeah,
like we didn't like no money traded hands. I sent you a unit just so you'd have one, but like you helped me out, which is, I don't know, it's an indication of like, what you what you stood for at
yeah,
that time,
thanks. Yeah, I mean, I still feel like I try to do that. I mean, me and most of my like friends that I still like really close with in this hobby, like none of us really do much keyboard wise anymore. But like, I have like a Zekin boards, Perry boards, Biso boards, like Tomu stuff. Like, yeah, like my buddies that I've really become really good friends with, like we all have each other's boards and it's just fun to have them.
Yeah.
I can't really think of boards that I still have that like aren't necessarily made like by a friend or by someone that at one point I was closer with, or we not even just friends, but like you go back and forth. People always ask questions. Hey, do you have any advice for this manufacturer, or
Yeah.
how should I go with doing this or that? Yeah, like it all kind of works out whenever you're in a smaller type community, like how keyboards used to be,
Yeah.
where it was a lot easier to get that information and everything like that.
Your vendor site, which is Hiney.cc, right?
Yeah.
That started what, like late 2019 when you decided to like actually, hey, I'll vendor plates, I'll vendor PCBs. And I think this is
Yeah, it
like
started
right
with
around when like you started doing like some more boards, right?
Yep. Yeah. So that was like around when I started the HBCP buy and like selling those. And yeah, it was pretty much just like group buy stuff where I would do H87s or, stuff like that where I didn't really have products in stock or anything or inventory. It was just, hey, I'm going to make, 100 of these or 200 of these, buy them now and I'll ship them to you when I get them. Which, I mean, it's pretty much still what I do now for the most part. But yeah, I mean, it was just that. And I started doing like, people were asking me, hey, can you do plates? No one makes FR4 plates yet. Or, like Jane's or, Jane V1, Jane V2,
Yeah.
and boards that use those form factors. And I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? Like, save shipping because you can buy both from me, for example. But yeah, that's kind of where that started. And then, yeah, grew into more of in stock stuff because I, had more capital, more funds, other group buy stuff, things like the universal daughter boards that AI, and I help with that too. Like there's a whole group of us, Wilba and everyone else too, where yeah, like I was like, well, I don't necessarily want to be a one-stop shop, but it doesn't make sense for someone like, to buy two items from me, one item from someone else, another item from a third person.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to just get the items you want, then just get them all from me, I guess.
So, I mean, at this point, it was basically a business. Like you had
Yeah,
set
yeah,
this
it was
up
a
like it's
side
an
business.
actual
Yeah, I had my
business.
main business. It was a side thing. I got like the whole. I think back then, before we moved back to Pennsylvania, it was like a self proprietorship or whatever. And then we moved back to Pittsburgh, and I got like set up like my LLC and all that good stuff.
All right. And out of curiosity, like how was the vendoring life like basically at the peak of the keyboard hobby? Like I know that recently, I say recently, I mean like in the past like 3 4 years, like
Yeah,
you've been like you were able to buy a house, you were able to like get shit together,
yeah.
you had like changes in the family, you got married, right?
Hmm. Yep.
Did the vendor aspect like play into that? Did it help you out financially, or was it just like a drop in
Um,
the bucket?
I did what I could to like pretty much keep things separate. I wanted, quote unquote real money and keyword money, essentially. Keep
Okay.
keyword money within keyboards for inventory for stock and things. And then, real money, obviously, I had a job, worked and stuff. That was that. Um, and then yeah, I mean like buying a house and everything, like that was money that we had saved as it was, like not
Okay.
really keyboard stuff. Like granted, I would, pay myself every once in a while with stuff, or if I wanted to buy something here and there, like I went through the legal hoops, or like, pay taxes and whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that was, it definitely didn't hurt. But yeah, it was nice just to have like the extra income and just the ability to like not just waste my time, I guess, whenever, evenings, weekends, downtime, instead of me just, like playing games or, watching TV, movies, whatever. Like it was actually something applicable and like worthwhile doing, learning and, obviously doing all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that was, it started to get pretty overwhelming in the sense of like more orders, more, the hobby started to grow, like you said, at the
Yeah.
peak. I mean, I'm speaking like even before COVID times,
Oh yeah,
like
it
when I was
started in
working out of
2019.
like the attic in the house we had. I had, yeah, like PCBs, plates. I literally had like stock of stuff, and I'd be shipping it out of like our third floor attic, and it just wasn't ideal. Um, Definitely like stressed me out because I was trying to do like the TKL1 stuff, and that was all very manual too. Where like we were talking about like PCBs, so I went from like flashing them and bagging
Yeah.
myself to having them do it. HBCP and TKL1, the first one, so not the polycarbonate ones, that I still have on my site, so buy them. That's a little plug. But the original aluminum ones, I literally had to change out every single screw on every single board myself and like reassemble them and tap holes because they were like kind of loose and
Oof.
stuff because the screws they use weren't great. But yeah, it took forever, and it was really overwhelming. I'm not gonna lie, like, and I got to the point where I actually finally, thank God, got diagnosed with ADHD after about 20 something years. And I started, yeah, like it, I was like, this is like, there's no way that like this is how normal people function because I see normal people functioning and this isn't it. But yeah, like meds, therapy, all that good shit, like really helped a lot. Actually, that happened once I started doing keyboards full time. That was during COVID slash after the first lump of COVID, but we can get to that later. But yeah, I mean, it was cool just to have stuff to do and a lot of people involved and friends and the community aspect of it, and like that was when it was still close knit and it wasn't like as segmented as it is now.
Yeah.
Like I remember that was still like Novel Keys. He was selling like the 3D printed switch testers
Yeah.
like before they had their big boom. Canon
Oh
Keys
yeah.
doesn't even exist
Yeah.
really. Like it was just different. I don't know, but I enjoyed that era of like keyboard vendorship for sure.
My next question is the full-time aspect of keyboard vendoring, because I know you wanted to go full-time. Like I know you had like a day job and everything, but I presume this was
Yeah.
like, the good times in the hobby where you got to take advantage if you can.
Uh-huh.
Tell me about keyboarding full-time.
Yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily say it was something that I really wanted to do. It was more like I wanted to try it
Okay.
and see what happened. Like that. So that was, we moved back to our home city. got a job during COVID too. Like that was
Ooh.
like beginning of 2020. And it was like, it was okay. It was an all right job. You know, I was actually doing like PCB design at my job. So
Okay.
that's when I really lost interest in doing it as like a hobby side business too. Because the last thing I wanted to do was like be staring at Altium for 8 hours working and then like
Go home and do the
doing
same
that for
shit.
another,
Yeah.
or being at home in the exact same desk and just doing it on a different computer.
Yeah.
That's when I really started. It was like a lot of like burnout, I guess is a good way to put it. Um, and like, you know, people wanted, you know, designs and things, but they only wanted like 30 or 40 of them. And it was a lot of like my time for that wasn't necessarily worth it for like such a small run or, you know, all that kind of stuff. Like that's all give and take. But
Yeah.
yeah, then we started doing the whole, you know, like return to office thing. Our office was like an hour away from where we lived.
Oh.
So commute 2 hours pretty much. And like, yeah, the absolute last thing I want to do was keyboards, anything really. Like that was when I really realized like, oh, this is why you have like downtime and relaxation time and you don't always need to be doing something. I really like learned that and had to learn it and realize it. But yeah, so it literally got to a point where I was like, I was comfortable enough in the sense of like sales I had, group wise stuff that I did, things like that, where I was like, I could feel like I can do this for the time being. Let's try it out. And it got to, yeah, I did it for full time for, I want to
It was
say,
close to a year, right?
yeah, it was like a year and a half,
Oh,
two
damn.
years maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like uh, the end of 2020 until the beginning of 22.
So
So yeah,
you just
like
like
a year
left
and
your
a half.
job and went like full time?
I told him I was like, hey, like I was, you know, I was just like not very into it. Like my boss kind of could tell and everything. I was like, hey, look, I'm going to leave this and I want to do my side business full time. I'm going to try it out because that was right when the hobby was booming like
Oh yeah.
crazy. A lot of stuff was, you know, a lot of stuff was in demand. A lot of sales were being made, not just from me, but from like overall.
Yeah, yeah. It was wild.
A lot of people were like running group buys, asking me for PCBs, and like the way that I would do that is like, say you designed a TKO that uses like a standard H87C or something.
Yeah.
You would basically pay me. I would pay the factory, and like then you like the profit would work into both of our costs, I guess. Like your profit would work. You'd have an MSRP, and then like my profit was built into the cost of the
Yeah,
PCB.
so you'd like take 2%, 4% plus I mean I'm going off other examples because
Yeah,
I've never made any like financial transactions with you, but like the way that
yeah.
it works is like, you know, $600 or $1,000 up front, and then like 2, 3, or 4% of like MSRP.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
that,
or I would just do it like straight up. Like if it was like a group buy thing, it was like, hey, if you want 100 PCBs, you know, I'll make, I don't even know, like $8 to $10 per, and then you can also make that same amount on your end when you sell the extra ones and things like that. But I mean, it worked well at the small scale, and then I was like, hey, I need more space. That was right when we bought our house too. So I was like working on our house renovations. Yeah, we were doing work at this place for like 4 or 5 months before we moved in. Planning a wedding, just doing all kinds of shit. And I was like, I don't have space for this. I need like a dedicated shop.
yeah,
So I found one like literally right between where we used to live and where we live now, which is a 10-minute drive anyway.
okay.
But I found that I was like, this is cool. This is great. This is honestly way too much space than I need. But I was like, the price is pretty good. So I'm just going to go for it. Started doing that. And then I realized like overhead costs are really high
Yeah,
when you
people
start to actually have
yeah,
overhead
yeah, yeah.
costs. Yeah.
People don't realize this, but like once like once you start properly like trucking, once you've got like actual stock, you need space. And that
Yes.
space costs you money, and that
Yep.
money can only be made if you sell your stock. I mean,
Exactly.
this is basically what killed, you know, all the vendors that went under in the past
Yeah.
couple of years. Is that
Yeah.
people don't understand that, like, you know, you can't fit all this shit in somebody's house. It's not possible.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not even just space, it's like organized space too.
Yep.
So, you know, the shelving, the tables, you know, all the packing equipment, like the tape reels and like the bubble wrap
Yeah, and
holders
I mean
and
those are the simple things, but you got to like actually
yep,
rent a space. You got to pay electricity. You got to pay insurance.
yeah,
You got to pay
yep,
tax.
internet, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, taxes, yeah. I mean, like, so I did it full time where like I paid myself a salary less than I was making otherwise. Like I was like I don't want to, go crazy with this.
Yeah.
Enough to, pay mortgage, bills, standard costs, like just living. And I realized like that is still like I didn't have to think about it when I had a real job because I didn't have to really do that.
Yep.
But then like that became that where I realized like this is actually like crazy. I honestly, it got to the point where like I couldn't keep up really well at all. It's not like,
You ever think about like hiring somebody to try and help you out?
I did, but at the same time, it's like, it's not that how would I pay him? It's like, I didn't want to dedicate more cost to that
Yep.
because then it's less, overhead money, things like that. But I'm very, very, very lucky where I have a couple really, really good friends in the area now where like I actually started like a Pittsburgh keyboards Discord server like probably 2 years ago now.
Nice.
And I made a lot of really, really good friends where like we'll come over, like they'll come to my shop, we'll hang out, we'll like pack shit and not even like work, but just like, hang out. And we'll have little mini meetups and stuff. I'll grab like food or beer or whatever. We just hang out and it's just so like they're like, hey, we want to help you. Like we don't want this to just like make you miserable.
No, I get you.
Yeah, we want to actually help you out. So like I'm very lucky in the sense where like those guys are great, reliable. It's not hard to do, but I'm very like I don't know, like control freakish where it's like if something isn't necessarily packed right, I want to like, I get like nervous, I guess. Like especially when it's an international order and someone's like, "Hey, I got the wrong stuff."
Oh God.
Like stuff like that where it's just like my goal is to obviously not make that happen, but it does, and just I get nervous, but yeah, that's been a massive help, especially in the sense of like fulfillment and stuff. Like during that whole time when I was still full time, I launched like the Ladybird buy,
Yeah.
the TKO1 Poly buy. Poly buy was first, and that still took forever. I had the boards, and I still needed. There was like some random stuff for the kits that I needed to get, and I just didn't get around to doing it. I need to like make more sales first to like buy stuff,
Yeah.
which that's the downfall of the whole group buy side.
Yeah.
Of things,
Cash flow.
like, yes, cash flow is key. And I mean, I don't really have a business background. I don't have schooling knowledge, it's anything. So I was really just trying to figure it out, and sadly, it just never really worked out that well.
Yeah. I mean, business is fucking hard, dude. Like,
Yeah.
business is business at the end of the day. Like you were lucky enough to like, have friends that were close that would help you out. Like that, I mean, for me, that's like the core of the hobby is, making those connections, meeting those people, having a good time with them. It doesn't matter. Money doesn't matter. Keyboards don't matter. It's about the friends.
Exactly. Yeah. I wouldn't do
But
I
as a
wouldn't
business,
even be in keyboards if it wasn't for the friends.
exactly.
In
But
the
then
hobby.
as a
Yeah.
business, like, everything has to change. To some degree, like no matter how hard you try, the second it's a business, like I've spoken to other people whose names shall remain private for this video that, once keyboards became a business, it was just all downhill from there because,
honestly,
all the joy just fucking disappears.
Yep. Yeah. The fun was not gone, but it wasn't there. It wasn't a matter of, someone messaging me after they get something that's like, oh, this is so cool. Like, I love this, which obviously that helps. It was just like, you send it and you never hear from anyone. You never see them again. They'll be a repeat customer maybe, but even that's like, that's cool. Like there's names that I see, or like I'll meet people at meetups. So like, oh, hey, I'm so-and-so. I'm like, oh yeah, you bought this from me. Or you're like, you bought a couple things from me. I've seen your name before, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I lost the fun part of it. Yeah. Like you said, which is the whole reason I even got into it, and I'm still in it now, is like the fun stuff. But yeah, the business side is just like, it's as bad as it sounds. Like I'm really looking forward to the day I don't have to do that anymore.
That's understandable, man.
Yeah,
like
almost to a detriment of like, it's like a lot of the whole time thing. It's like if I look at something and I get like, I know I don't have the time to do it, so I just won't do it at all instead of doing what I can.
Yeah.
Like I was saying earlier, like honestly, therapy helped a lot with that kind of stuff. For like, I started to get over that hump and was able to actually like do stuff, like little victories. But even that it's very, very overwhelming. Like that's why I got a real job again. I was like, I can't survive if I don't like have a normal source of income.
Yeah. Wait, when
Um,
was this? When did you like stop
that
full
was
time and
beginning of 22.
okay. Oh, you waited a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did like I was full time here for like a year and a half ish, but I remember I did like my yearly taxes and I was like, I can't keep doing this
Yeah, that
much
sounds about right.
longer. Yeah, like especially when it's stuff like a mortgage to pay. Yeah, like real life things that like you need money for, obviously.
Yep.
I was like, I don't want to rely on keyboards or myself in that, in that whole mind, that whole thought.
I mean, it's not even just that. Like, like at this point, had you gotten married yet? I mean, at this point, you were
Yeah,
engaged, right?
yeah. We got married. It's we were married at the shit. When was it? 2 years ago. Yeah, so 22. I
Okay.
can't remember.
Yeah,
It's
I
been
mean
forever.
everything changes when it's no longer just about you. Like if it's just about you,
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
as a fellow man, like I can live in a fucking cardboard box on the street. I don't
Yeah.
care, you know. But
Yeah.
like once you've got the responsibility of somebody else, like
Hmm.
even if they're working, even if they have a job, still you still have that fucking
Yeah.
responsibility, and that
Yeah. And it's just
changes
like, yeah,
everything.
like real life. Yeah. Real life responsibilities. Yeah. Like we were already living together and everything, my wife and I, and stuff like that. Like, don't tell, the priests or whatever. But yeah, like we were, yeah, it was just like real life responsibilities came over, like social obligations. This year's crazy in the sense of like I think we're in 7 or 8 weddings this year alone
God damn,
because all of our friends are getting married like right now,
that's good.
which is awesome. Like
Yeah,
it's fantastic, but like it's still like it's time, it's money, it's
yeah.
a lot of stuff that I was like I can't rely on myself for all of this. In the sense of like from like a business aspect, because I suck at marketing. And like I'm good at designing. That's about it, honestly. But I've realized that it's not as easy as the good vendors and the good businesses make it look.
I know it's fucking
And
tough, dude. It's fucking tough. Like
yeah, oh
you
yeah,
can't be on your A game for everything. Like for
yeah,
me, like I can handle like the group buy aspect, the logistics, but that's it.
hmm yeah,
When it comes to like design, when it comes to fabrication, when it comes to shit like that, I know I can't do it.
hmm
You can't have a perfect score all around, and it's
yep,
fucking tough. Like if you're trying to do this
hmm
as a business, you've got to be able to put on all those hats, and it's
yeah,
hard, man. It's hard.
yeah, yeah. And that was like where I was really relying on myself to be like, oh yeah, you'll figure this out. And I would, and it would be like too late, or it wasn't, as good as it needed to be, or everyone knows at this point all my shipping's slow. Like my group buys take forever for me to actually get out. Like that's just like that is absolutely not my strong point, and I know that now. Like that's why I haven't launched any new big buys. I don't want to, because I just don't want to. Like if I do anything, it will be like with other vendors that can handle that aspect of it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which there's some stuff in motion in the background here and there for that, but yeah, it's like I can't be responsible for all that, because I know that it's not that I'll let myself down or let my customers down. It's like that I just don't have the bandwidth, I guess, to do it all.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
realistically, like the whole like what I'm trying to get at is like nobody has that bandwidth. It's impossible, dude. Like at
mhm.
best, you're gonna be a jack of all trades and master of
Yeah,
none. You know,
that's pretty much what I am. Yeah. And like if people that are that good at everything, they're not doing keyboards. They're actually doing it for like, big companies, or they're, more successful. They're out of it here. It's they're yeah, they found a more reliable market or whatever,
yeah,
Um but yeah, it's absolutely not easy. I mean, I would go back and tell myself a couple years ago, like, hey,
don't
don't
do
quit
it.
your day job.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, yeah, keep it as a side hustle, a side business, keep it fun, like
yeah.
low stress, lower stress. Um, yeah, where like it doesn't have to be something that you need to rely on to live your life. It's something that's just yeah, extra on the side, pretty much.
Wait.
Yeah,
Just super quick, like, like just like generally, like vaguely, like what do you do now?
I do electrical test and systems engineering for a large transport company.
All right.
We'll say we do trains, trams, all that good shit.
All right. So if the trains get derailed, make sure to blame Hiney.
Yeah, because I'm actually responsible for all of it. Yep, absolutely.
As a friend, I'd prefer that, like, you have that security of a full-time job, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
still have, like, you have the joy of actually, like, being in a hobby, as opposed
yep.
to being in a full-time job with all the risks in the world, with, no fucking certainty of your ability to even live.
Yeah, the certainty was a huge part too, where it was like COVID, there's a huge boom, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of things. Like, I mean, I'm one of the few vendors that was there before and is still here now, but
Yeah.
like my goal this time next year is to like not do that stuff at all. I don't even want to have a website. I just want to be a guy at a Discord server that people can ping and laugh at. Yeah, like I there's a lot of other vendors that I'm lucky where like I realized that early on about myself. I realized like this isn't what I want to be doing or need to be doing right now. Where I was able to go back and like turn it back into a side job, but it's still very main job esque in the sense of like the the space, the time, and all the
Yeah, you
effort.
still have all the
Um,
responsibilities, like,
yeah,
if there's like any commercial aspect, if you're like, vendoring, making, designing, anything like that, you still have that commercial aspect. Like, you have the possibility of, like, oh, I'll do it, I'll do it for fun, but then you realize that, it eats up more and more of your time, and
yeah.
eventually you got
Like
to
I still
draw a
need to
line.
sell keyboard kits to pay the rent in my place, to pay the for the Uline stuff I have to get for shipping things, or for the utilities, basically all the overhead stuff. But yeah, it's I mean, I'm doing my best to scale back and just ship stuff out so I can kind of get out of it. Because I'm lucky in the sense that like I was able to realize that, like I was saying, because other vendors I know like weren't able to. They had to, declare bankruptcy,
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of personal stuff. Like my goal is keep everything separate as well as I can, do what I can to keep that the case. And yeah, just wrap it up and get out.
You've kind of like withdrawn from the hobby, like, let's say, past couple of
Yeah.
years, and not just as a vendor, like from a hobby, like what pushed you out? Was it real life stuff? Was it just not wanting to deal with, the bullshit of vendoring and the responsibilities of, being a maker and stuff like that? Like, what actually pushed you out? Because, like, very few people have, like, stuck around and, like, the
Hmm.
as true hobbyists. Like, I consider myself a true hobbyist. At the end of the day, like, I stream, but it's a not-for-profit stream. I,
Hmm.
don't benefit financially. I stick around because I like it. But I understand that, that is a luxury, because a lot of people don't have that choice.
Yeah.
Like what are the things that just, like, slowly pushed you out?
Yeah. Just a combination, like less time to just sit on the computer and like be on Discord. Less time to like watch streams, YouTube videos. Like I very rarely watch keyboard streams anymore. If anything, it's like music stuff in the background or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, just less time to just spend sitting around, just do it, just being present, I guess. Um, that was a big part of it. And then yeah, the I wouldn't say like the people. Sometimes it's like, you just pop into a server, then people are like, hey, I have questions about this, questions about that. I'm like, I just kind of want to hang out. Like I'm not in business mode or whatever, you want to call it.
I get you.
Um, yeah, just that kind of stuff. The stress, anxiety, whatever, the mental health aspect too, of like always having messages and always having things people need, like just constantly there, is very, it can, be overwhelming, stress inducing. I just try to, yeah, like disconnect a bit and not let that kind of stuff, I guess, like rule my life in a way, I would say, or let it like dictate me, dictate to me to like, do certain things or whatever. Definitely like a mental health kind of thing, I would say, where being away from it helped me to focus on other stuff and just not always have like this stuff that I know I need to do or that I have to do or that I'm going to be doing for keyboards, like just constantly in my head.
I know you've got at least, like, one pending group buy, and people, like, I may have leaked to some people that I was going to be talking to you,
Oh yeah.
and they were curious to know about, like, hey, why is stuff not shipping? What the hell is going on?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And to be fair, like, I remember back in the day, like TGR group buys, where some people would get their board 1 year, and some other people
The
would get it 2 years later.
Buddhist exempt.
Oh God, don't even remind me of the Exent. Wait, were you in on the original Exent?
No, but I love the like the Bobby Hill
Oh, I know.
meditation, the Buddhist exempt. Yeah, I know where you're going with this question. Do you want to finish it, or do you just want me to start talking?
Oh, I'm literally finished.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of it comes down to that same stuff that I've talked about, where it's like time, like mental space to actually do it, and not like I'll go down to my shop and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna pack orders, and then it's like, oh, I have this to do first, this to do first, this, that, the other thing, and you get so distracted that you just like don't have the time. I try to get down to my shop like 2 or 3 times a week,
All right.
just because I can't go down every day. I can't be there all day every day.
Yeah.
I have like other obligations and other responsibilities that are higher priority, as bad as that sounds. Like obviously, people want their stuff. I get it. It's not like I don't have it. I'm just very limited on my own abilities and time to like go do it. It's definitely something I need to do more of. I know that for a fact. I just it's the whole like mental side of it that just is really overwhelming me. But I'm getting back to it, getting better with it, I would say. I was just gone. I was in Europe. We did a big trip for a friend's wedding for like 2 weeks. So obviously I wasn't here for that. I didn't post an announcement. I should have. I forgot on my server because someone was like, "Hey, my order hasn't shipped." I was like, "Yeah, I literally just got home from Europe like
I mean,
yesterday."
that is the thing where you've stepped back from, like, I am a business vendor to I am doing this as a hobbyist, and a lot of people
Yeah.
don't understand that when you do it as a hobbyist, you're doing what you can when you can,
Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
like you
That's a
should.
good way to put it.
Yeah, like, of course the responsibilities are still there. Of course,
Hmm.
shit's got to get done, but like
Hmm.
people need to get a fundamental understanding of, listen, I'm not in this to be a business. I'm in this, as a hobbyist,
Yeah.
and I'm,
I was in this to be business, and now it's biting me in the ass in that sense.
yeah,
um, but yeah, it's like I would love to, obviously I would love to have like Novel Keys. They have a warehouse. They do that full time. They have a team. They have people. I, I do still do it all myself for the most part. I do have a really good buddy Max that helps me so much with shipping. He's great. He actually was down there when I was out of the country, packing some orders.
all right,
But yeah, it's a lot of it's like just like you said, doing what I can when I can. I'm we're ridiculously busy. I mean, we live by our families. We have a lot of friends, social obligations, stuff we can't say no to in a way
yeah,
where, like say I have a plan, like I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get on my shop Sunday afternoon, and then it's like, oh, we have so and so's birthday party, or some family meetup at some event or something. It's like, all right, I guess I'm not going to my shop. It's frustrating. I definitely get frustrated with it because like I know I need to dedicate more time to keyboards and just to get them done with. But at the same time, it's like it's really hard to make that time available. Yeah. Oh, like oh, this person said they wanted something different,
yeah,
or they messaged me what was their username, and I'm sitting there for like 15 minutes trying to do that. Whereas I could have spent that 15 minutes packing 4 or 5 orders.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just like the time management is like my time management overall is not great. I will tell you that as a fact. It's never been good. Always had issues with it, but like that all really, really came to a head when it was like me doing this business full time, where it was like it was terrible. Like that's literally when I finally like convinced myself to go and like get diagnosed with ADHD. Obviously I can't use that as an excuse for like a disability, but
I mean,
like
it's not an
that was a
excuse.
big
it's
deal.
it's,
Yeah,
it's just like the understanding
yeah.
that, like, actually going full time, actually vendoring,
Yeah,
will
like
push you to your
realizing that
extreme.
stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And like very overwhelming. Bouts of depressive episodes, like where I'm like, I don't even want to get out of bed today and go down to my shop just because like I'm so down, so whatever. I'm much better off right now than I was, no question about it. But I mean that kind of stuff sticks with you. It doesn't just go away.
Yeah, of course.
Um, which I mean it sucks. It's life. It's humans. It's how we are.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're just all people.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's hard to see. That's hard to see if you're, I mean, it's just generally hard to see. Like, how do I say this? I mean, a lot of people forget that other people are just fucking people. They got their own,
Yep.
like, every single person is like a fucking ocean of problems and shit going on. And, we don't really think about it in this day and age of like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like just going to a place, talking to somebody like customer support job or a service worker or shit like that. You don't fucking know, you
Yeah, you
know?
have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have no idea what's going on in their mind. But I remember it was like being people expecting just like stuff to ship, like as if it was Amazon or whatever. I remember it was I think literally the day before my wedding, like 2 years ago, someone it was so that would have been like a Thursday because we got married on a Friday, and it was that day someone ordered something like that Tuesday or Wednesday, and they came to my server and they were like, "Hey, this hasn't shipped yet. What's up?" And I was like, "I'm not Amazon, dude. Like, fuck off." Pretty much. And because I was like, I want nothing to do with keywords right now. I'm getting married. Like, that's my focus, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was like, eat my ass. Like, I'm literally getting married tomorrow. Like, I'm not dealing with this right now.
Yeah.
And then the next week, obviously, I shipped the thing, but
Uh-huh.
whatever it was like a daughter board or something, I'm sure. But yeah, it's like I would love to get back into doing that more often. I just need to like build up that routine of like doing it, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I'm just doing what I can to like stay above the current and just finish stuff as I can.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And I think a big part of it was like me realizing like, all right, I don't want to do this anymore in the sense of like running group buys. And yeah, obviously, the upfront profit funding would be great, but like it's not worth
It's not. There's so much fucking work that goes
yeah,
into
the
it.
next 2+ years, however long it would
Yeah.
take to actually get everything done. Like, no, it's not worth that. Yeah, and like me realizing that I think was like a big step. That was like a year or two ago, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty much I'm done doing all that work. I still love the design stuff and work with other, vendors and things, but like there's no way I'm doing it myself. Guarantee you. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Not a
I
chance.
mean, like, anybody in another situation that doesn't like fully understand the consequences, and it's like, oh, it's fine. You still make money, but like at the end of the day, or at the end of the month, or at the end of the year, when you calculate it, you realize you've been spending your time for like $1 an hour or something like that.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
you're just like, listen, no matter how much I love this, the real world exists. I still got to pay my bills. I still have dependents. I still got family. I still got shit to
Hmm.
do. And $1 an hour is not enough.
Nope. Yeah, not at all. I mean, that's another big thing of like people are like, "Oh, my time's free." It's like if you enjoy what you're doing, like that's kind of your payment.
Yeah,
But
but not
yeah, when it
really.
turns into something like, yeah, it depends. There's always a give and take with all that kind of stuff. But it's like design work. I usually never charge like for that. Um, I usually just bake my cost in, but it's like I don't have time to do like full on PCB designs right now for people. Like I don't even have time to do stuff for myself. Like I have a dozen or 20 or however many HPCP cases literally still at my shop with no PCBs. And I'm like, I don't have the time to like do them. If I did, I would have them done, but like I don't have the time.
Let's bang through these last ones. All right.
Sure.
What sort of advice would you give to people looking to get into like the maker slash vendor space besides don't do it? Like in
I wouldn't
terms
I
of
wouldn't
like
say
like
I
how do you prepare yourself to actually do this?
yeah.
What are the things that like you don't think about when you're going to get into it?
Uh-huh. I wouldn't say don't do it. I would say try it cautiously and have a backup plan. Or if you can go all in on it and you feel comfortable, you have backing or support, whatever it could be, like go for it. Like why not try it? Like I always think like I'd rather try something and fail or it not work out or whatever, and not be what I thought it was than like never know. I would definitely say try, but be very cautious. I would say like I was saying earlier, like the keyboard world, who knows what it's going to be like 6 months from now, 2 years from now.
Yep.
Like make sure you have a plan in place where if it doesn't work out, what are you going to do? It's a lot of just like, and it's sad because a lot of that is like you do have to figure it out on your own. Some people are better at like the analysis, the research side of it to do that beforehand, which is great.
Even then, like you cannot project, future demand. You cannot
Yeah,
project future growth or
yeah,
shrinkage of the hobby. It's
yep.
impossible.
Mhm. A lot of stuff is like I always try to like not just for the keyboards but in life in general, like learn from other people's mistakes instead of making that mistake yourself. Yeah, like look at why vendors, failed or got out of it, or like what caused them to get to that point, and just
Yeah.
do what you can to avoid those kind of situations.
Yeah.
And it's tough to see that kind of like if you're not in a situation, but at the same time, like you can have enough of of an awareness, I guess.
No, it's a solid learning opportunity. Like
Yeah, exactly.
we recently went through like the mykeyboard.eu like
Yeah.
liquidation stock, and like got
Hmm.
a feel for, okay, here are the things they were stuck with, and then realistically it gives you an indication of, okay, here's where, the demand is, here's where the demand isn't. But even then, like, you still
Hmm.
can't project the future. You still got
Yeah,
to
I mean,
have a backup plan.
and with me, I learned that the hard way. Where like I still have like 50 or 60 poly TKL1 kits just at my shop,
Like
unsold.
PCBs and all.
The whole kit, yeah. Like I have them in stock on my site. I just like the only marketing I do is I ping people on my Discord server. That's it. Like I have an Instagram. I've probably been opened that Instagram account in months. Marketing is so important with keyboards,
It
especially
is.
today,
It is.
where streamers or even just big names or just getting stuff out there. Like I don't do that, and that was one of those things where like I learned like I'm not good at that. It's one of those. It's goes to show in the sense of like things I have sitting that, say if it's another company or something that does market very well and is very active and has a big presence like that wouldn't be the case. So I started to explain to people like when like what's like the keyboard world like. I was like, it's like sneakers kind of.
I mean, it was for like
Yeah.
2021, 2022.
Yep. Yep.
Thankfully, most of that has gone away.
Definitely. Yeah.
Like
But yeah,
I'm
like
happy about it.
it was. Yeah, me too. Like it was like that for a bit, and like that's when it was like, okay, I like this didn't get enough exposure, this or that. Not enough people are like, oh, that's so sick, I want it. It wasn't even they wanted it; they wanted to have it to resell it because so many other people liked it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But you can't blame it on that. You can't blame any of it on that. It's just like it's just shifted and it's changed. But like, if you're gonna get into this stuff and like do this, you have to be aware of that, I guess, and be cognizant of the fact that like what's cool now might not be cool, in 6 months.
Absolutely.
Like
And if
people are
you're,
saying, year the 60, year the 65, but like then once everyone makes one, no one wants it anymore because everyone has one.
yeah, I mean, yeah, you got to take on that risk, especially if you're like maker slash vendor, where timelines are like 6 months,
Hmm.
12 months out. Do you take the risk on a project where you don't know if there's going to be that interest that you have now 12 months from now? It's
Yep. Yeah,
possible,
like
nobody
I
cares.
sold a lot of slots for the Poly TKL1, and that was 20. That was like 22. I think like end of 22. But yeah, I was like, okay, so people like this board, like they're really excited for it. I'm gonna get a bunch of extras, and then I put a lot of money that I could have had otherwise
Yeah.
for spending on other projects or for inventory or for this or that into those, and yeah, now they're more or less just sitting there.
I mean, that's what killed most vendors that went
Yep,
under, was
yep,
just over leveraging themselves.
exactly, yeah,
Not.
and I'm guilty of that too. I'm right now just kind of selling them as I can,
I mean,
but like I dropped the price and
to be fair,
yeah,
like most vendors, including vendors that are still like up top right now,
oh yeah,
everybody made that mistake. Everybody made the
yep,
mistake of just like of pulling a little bit too hard, stalking a little bit too
hmm,
much. I mean, we've seen it with like novelty sales for like sub $100
oh
GMK
yeah,
sets. We've seen it.
yeah,
We've seen like Canon key sales again, like free
hmm,
purchases, extras, just trying to get shit out the door, because like, I mean, what can you do? Nobody can predict the future, but like at the very least, you gotta reduce your risk exposure. And if you reduce it too much, then you're irrelevant. All right, so we'll bang out these last ones. So these are all viewers from my Patreon.
oh sweet,
Yeah,
that's a cool. I like that. That's fun.
I mean, like, thankfully, like, Patreon exists, because like, I mean, my whole deal. Like, I'll review boards, but like, I won't take money. I won't take like
Yeah.
the board for free. So like, at the end of the day, I gotta like pay for shipping back and forth, pay for customs, and Patreon allows me to do that, thankfully.
Hmm.
So, well, I've only got three here. I bet you there's some more, but like I've picked out like three solid ones. So like the first
Yeah, and
one,
if I would say like if if people have questions that you don't answer or whatever, like feel free to DM me. Like I'm pretty accessible. I might not get back to you immediately, but like I really don't mind this kind of stuff. If anything, it actually helps me a lot
All right.
with that kind of stuff too. So yeah, go ahead.
All right, first question. Would you ever come back to the hobby? Like what would it take for you to like be like back in the way that you were in like, 2017, 2018? What would it take?
Um, not being in it from a business standpoint, I would say. So I'm assuming whoever asked this, they're asking about like, me streaming, being around, like,
Yeah,
just being
being a
around
member of the
more.
community.
I don't know, honestly. It's not that I'm not into keyboards anymore, but like I have other hobbies that I'm spending more time with, things like that. It would be a matter of just like finding, the time and the urge inside to do it. And I do get that, honestly, from time to time. Like I had to set up my stream stuff for this. But now that it's up, I mean,
You may as well.
maybe, yeah. But yeah, it's like, I don't know, honestly. It's tough to say because like that would be awesome, but at the same time, like I wouldn't say I'm in like the same kind of like point in my life, I guess, where I could or I would want to do that.
Okay.
You know? Like I have other interests now, but like I whenever it's not, a business thing anymore and I don't have like to deal with that side of it all,
Yeah.
I could definitely see myself getting back into it to a point of like, I don't know, like I like being guest on your stream, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's always fun. So yeah, I definitely have to like see what opportunities and like what I would feel like doing, but I mean, it's not that I don't like the keyboards themselves. Like they're always fun. I don't really have anything to build, so I have to figure that out. But like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what it would take, but I have to figure that out. But
I mean,
hopefully I can get back into it. Yeah.
let's say theoretically, like, all the business obligations were met and you're just like, okay, screw it. I'm not vendoring anymore.
Hmm.
What's done is done. Business is done. And you can just like, reintegrate into the hobby as an actual hobbyist instead of,
Hmm. Hmm.
having those fucking responsibilities of having to deal with people, stuff like that. Do you still have that love to like be able to get back into the actual hobby in the community?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I definitely get that from like the local stuff we do, or like going down to the Novel Keys meets, and so like an hour away, and like just hanging out with people. Like that's what I've always loved about keyboards. That's what I still love about keyboards. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just have to find the right point to kind of get back into it, I guess.
All right. I mean, fair enough. All right. Next question. What are your future plans for PCB designs? So, like, I know that you've got novel keys right now. No, sorry. Is it Canon keys or novel keys that are selling your PCBs?
Novel Keys, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I know you got novel keys, like selling your PCB currently, but like, what's the long-term plan? Because like, having the layout support is nice to have. Having the
Hmm.
files for future generations is nice to have. Like, what are your plans? Have you thought about your long-term plans?
Yeah, I have. Unfortunately, I can't like just be like, hey, here are my files, like open source stuff, just because I use Altium and not KiCad. It's just not as straightforward for me to like share projects and things. But I mean, if it's to a point of like, yeah, like a not like a Novel Keys or whatever vendor, if they're like, hey, we want to stock this, or we want to buy these off of you, whatever it is, someone has like a group buy or something, and I do have the ability, like if it's not something that needs to be like designed, if it's something that like I have the design for, and it's just a matter of like doing the fab side of it, like that's not a big problem. But new actual like PCB designs, it's going to be something where it's like I really like want to do it, so I actually do it, or it has to be worth it enough, I guess, for me to do.
Yeah, fair enough.
Um, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily expect like, new groundbreaking, layouts and different stuff for me, I would say for sure. At this point, it's more or less just trying to maintain like what I have and like supporting the form factors that I have now. And plus like, Novelty still has some of the boards that I think they bought like 2 years from me that they sell, for example. I know
Uh-huh.
they're sold out of some other ones too, of course, but like, yeah, it's just a matter of like, hey, the demand's here, so we want more of them or stuff like that. Like I don't really see myself doing much of like the custom one-off style designs for like, so and so that makes a case that's like a weird layout.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
most of that has changed. I mean, most Westerners that are
yeah,
going to make something are gonna design like around a pre-existing platform.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, my real question is like, let's say demand has hit zero, no vendor cares. Like at that point, would you, like what would you do?
I don't know, just have the files and be like, whoever, like, if you want them, you can have them. But like,
Okay, fair enough.
yeah, I'm not even to that point where, like, I don't know,
No, no, fair
honestly.
enough. I mean,
Yeah,
like
I mean,
one.
if that's the case, and if I can pivot the whole, PCB hardware design stuff, like from beyond keyboards into another venture or, whatever it would be, like I make random little boards for like desktop power stuff and things like that, like just because I want to, and like it scratches that itch for me of like the whole learning, and instead of just redoing the same thing over and over and over.
I get
um
that.
yeah, honestly, I don't really know exactly what the future holds for new designs. Existing stuff, I would like to have them available, whether that's from me or from another vendor or whoever, whatever it would be. um Obviously it's good to have them out there and have my name, and not even just my name, but like my product, and like you said, like people know them, like they're reliable, like
Yeah.
it's good to have that. But yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure where I'm going to go with that.
All right. All right. And finally, last question from Patreon. How do you feel about your legacy and the impact of your work? Like the H87, like do
Hmm.
you believe you have a legacy? Do you believe you deserve a legacy?
um that's a really cool question. It's kind of loaded too, but um I it's really cool that I've kind of left a mark on the design side of keyboard stuff, and with the whole, most people using the same kind of form factor and layout, and them more or less make their own versions, like H87s, which is really cool. People come up to me even now, and I remember actually the first meetup I ever went to was one in Columbus, Ohio, and someone had a Mech Mini too, and I was like, oh, this is the first time I've actually like seen this in person. Like, this is sweet. And I can't remember who the person was, but they were like so kind and like so nice and like so excited to like talk to me. Like, I was literally, I like cried before I went to bed that night. I was like so like just happy. Like, it was really like good, like warm kind of feeling, you know.
Yeah, to like get some
So like,
recognition for like,
yeah, like
your
not
impact
even
on the
just
hobby.
that, but like people just being happy that, that they liked, my stuff. Like, that was really, really cool. Like, I definitely have like an ego, but I'm very, I don't know. I've tried to be like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I go to the Novel Keys meetup as a community member. I don't like, they gave me the vendor table the one year, and I literally had like 3 keyboards on my table. No banners, no fancy dumb shit. Like, I'm just there to be there, and just
Yeah.
enjoy it. But yeah, I mean, it's always so cool, like meeting people and being like, I've made some good friends just from them being like, hey, I got it on this buy. Like, here's my business card. I do this or that, like stuff like that. Yeah, I guess like a legacy, like that's really cool. I mean, it wasn't my intention, obviously. I'm just really happy that that kind of worked out the way it did. And then at the same time, like people know, like, oh, Hiney buys take forever, it takes forever to ship, he's slow shipping, blah blah. Like, that's kind of the double-edged sword of it, of like, I'm also known for that, which sucks. But like, most normal people aren't gonna like bring that up and be like, hey, why haven't you shipped this shit when you're here? At like a meetup or something.
Yeah, fair
But
enough.
I mean, yeah, it definitely goes both ways. I mean, obviously, I like to. At the end of the day, I want to get out of this stuff on my own terms, versus either being forced to, or whatever it would be. Um, but yeah, I think that would be like, for me personally, like my quote unquote legacy would be like getting out of it on my own terms and being like, yeah, I did that. That was cool, and like leaving it at that.
Yeah, at the end
And
of the
obviously,
day, like
the people, like there's people that they have one of each of my boards, or they'll message me and be like, hey, the only board I don't have of yours is this one or that one. I'm like, oh, I think I might have an extra or whatever. Like that kind of stuff, that really has always made it really worth it to me.
yeah, of course. At the end of the day, just knowing that like you've made something that like made some people happy
Hmm.
is all that really matters in the end.
Yep. Or like, it's so funny when people are like, oh yeah, this has, this tiny thing, blah blah blah. Oh, I designed that. They're like, no, really? I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh, no way, like that's so cool, like that kind of stuff, like getting that excitement and that, like, youthful kind of fun and joy out of it is, that's really all I hope people like. And yeah, I mean, ideally they can desolder and resolder their boards like 15 times. um and the Hiney board is the one they throw away because it died or whatever. But I mean, I can like control that so much.
Yeah. I mean, now things have gotten wild in terms of like what's going on. We're doing a lot of Hall effect. We're doing a lot of like electrocapacitive. Like
Yeah, I
there are new
honestly don't even
frontiers.
keep up with any of that. Yeah, it's like the stuff like Scipulot and Gondo are doing is like honestly way beyond me, even from like an engineering standpoint. And it's just like if I
You don't find it interesting?
it is interesting, but I would rather like do other stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Really?
um, it's really cool. Like, it's obviously a really cool challenge and stuff, but it's like, is it? Do I want to do that? No, just because I just don't. I don't know. That's really the only way to put it. Is like, I just don't feel like it. I mean, I love it. It's so cool. Like, I talk to those guys a decent amount on like random servers and stuff, and like help them. You know, we've all helped each other in like that the design space. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's really cool seeing what other people are able to do beyond me, you know, like AI, for example. I mean, him and I really learned a lot of it together way back in the cartel days. And I would say he was like my protege. Like
He's a lot
a
of
lot
people's
of this,
protege. He's
yeah,
you know, he's been solid all through the years.
yeah. And he's, you know, started to make, he works for Canon Keys now. Like that's unreal. He, you know, the wikis and the knowledge that he has, like documented, like
Yeah.
it's one thing, like most of my stuff's just in my head,
Yeah.
but it's like the ability to do all that is so cool. And like, whether it's, you know, in the eye or not, or like in the public eye, or, you know, like acknowledgments, whatever, like seeing all that and being like, oh yeah, we talked about this topic like 5 years ago and we figured it out. And now like everyone's doing it. It's
Yeah.
like, that's really, really, really cool. That side of it. And just, you know, being like proud of that. Like I was saying, way back in the day, there was like no such thing as ESD protection, no fuses for shorts, nothing. And like, we weren't the first people to do that, but we were the first ones. I feel like to like, I could definitely be wrong, but I feel like we were the first ones to really like make that standard and common, especially like going through like the universal daughterboard stuff,
Hmm.
even of like the JST connectors. Um, and then now we started to move towards like those really flat easy mate ones, like all that kind of stuff. Like that's really cool to even see of like, hey, I helped with that, or I was involved with that, or someone asked me a question about that and I give them my opinion, and whether they went with my opinion or not, like you still contribute, you know?
Yeah. Speaking of easy mate.
There you go. Yeah, like a lot of that stuff, even like you said, like the EC stuff, like the Hall effect, like I don't even do any of that stuff because you know, I've been so wrapped up with just working on existing designs and the slight improvements to existing designs that I have. And um, that goes along with that whole time thing of like, I don't have time to research and develop and, you know, spend money and time and everything on making something new work.
Yeah.
It's hard enough just trying to keep the existing stuff working
Yeah, fair enough.
and working well enough to like keep it relevant, I guess.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, I was looking at interviewing somebody else first, because I wanted to like delve into the whole aspect of like the downfall of vendoring, the downfall of the makerspace, and
Hmm.
the person whose name shall remain private for the time being, wasn't capable of like doing the interview because he picked up two full-time jobs in order to like meet his obligations to
Yeah.
be able to ship things to people. And you know, at that point, I'm just like, okay, well, Hiney was my number two. Let's go to let's go to Hiney.
I see how it is. Okay.
I mean, to be fair, you were tied for number one, but like he was like more available at the time, so I hit
Yeah,
him
I
up
got
first.
you.
Until all of a sudden he's just like, yeah, sorry, I'm starting my second job tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I hope everything's right with them too. I'm not sure. I don't know who that is, but I hope everything's right with them in that sense. Yeah, because it's extremely overwhelming when you feel like you're alone versus the world or versus your Discord server or
Yeah,
whatever it is. You know,
yeah,
like it's really tough. And yeah, like you were saying, it's hard for people to understand that if they've never been in that position.
yeah.
Or yeah, if whatever it is, but like, yeah, no, I get it.
It's tough, man. Oh, all right, and we're gonna leave it on a sad note.
A
I'll
happy note is I'm getting better at golf. That's my new big hobby.
like
So
all golf, like
Yeah, just golf in general. I don't know,
Really?
it's fun. Yeah. It's not, and it's not, it's nice because it's not just like sitting playing video games or whatever. It's like you're actually like outside doing shit,
Yeah, you get to
which I
smell
always
some air.
enjoy. Exactly. Yeah. You
You get to
gotta
hit
have
some
some
balls.
grass.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a lot of like me, I don't want to say growing up, I don't want to say maturing, but just like, moving forward in life. Like you have to move forward in life. You can't get complacent, whether, it's golf or whatever you're doing. Um, yeah, that's why, like I said, like the future of PCB stuff, like I have no idea. Right now, nothing. Like people are like, when are you doing this? I'm like, I don't know. We'll see if I can or if I get to it if I want to. Like, but yeah, you just gotta move forward and do what you can to close doors and open new ones and not let the doors force you out.
Well, Heini, thank you so much for being the first person who was absolutely my first choice. Don't look it up. For this video series, like I mean, like I'm specifically targeting people that have like gone through the entire arc of the hobby, which is like you start with love, then it becomes commerce, then you develop a reluctance, and then eventually you pull out, like that whole
Yep.
arc. And then like, what drives people to get in, to get out. Because for everybody it's different, for some people it might be family related, for some people it might be,
Yeah.
personal, for some people it might be mental health, for some people it might be commercial. But it's an arc, and we all have that arc, especially if we decide to turn this hobby into a business, which is
Hmm.
something that should be done with a lot of, caution, in my opinion.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, it definitely has helped me become, I don't know, not a better person, but a more well-rounded person. You learn a lot of things, learn a lot of lessons, stuff you can apply to other stuff. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'd rather try stuff and not succeed fully or, realize it's not something I want to do or be involved with versus like never know.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the biggest things I would say is like the overall lesson or whatever.
That's a good lesson. If you're curious, try it, but don't full commit. If you full commit,
Exactly.
you're gonna shoot yourself in the ass.
Yep. Yeah, and you can't rely on yourself to just figure things out as they come up. You have to have that plan, and I mean, it's still something I struggle with now. Of like, oh, I didn't foresee this happening or that happening or whatever. But like, you know, you have to be able to foresee stuff and have a plan on how to deal with things as they come up versus once they come up, then it blows up in your face and you're
You're shit
screwed.
out of luck. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.